Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan. Once again, and today we're going to be doing another TBR video. Today we're going to be looking at everything that I plan to read in June. And because of the way that things are working out for me right now, I'm actually recording this like a month in advance, right? I'm doing this in May, and these are my plans in advance for June, right? Because I want to focus on June on the Range, which is a reading event where you read stuff that is within the Western genre. I'm expanding that a little bit to be things that are, in the traditions of that genre, not necessarily in the genre, right? So I want to include some manga and some web serials and stuff. And I won't be able to record stuff and upload stuff until like a few days after June starts. And so I want to have this pre-made, right? So this is my ideal TBR for the month, but it might not actually happen this way. So, just be aware. In terms of proper novels for the June on the Range event, I have two that I want to focus on. The first one is Hondo by Louis L'Amour. This is a classic Western story, and it's a classic author, right? So there really isn't too much to say about this one. It's basically, as far as I understand it, a love story between Hondo and this woman called Angie, and there is this Apache warrior that stands between them, and there's this kind of like romantic triangle type thing with a lot of Western style action. So I think that's going to be what I get there, and I'm really excited about that. I think it'll be fun. Then I have The Trailsman. This is more of a adult Western, or a Western with a steamy lean to it, as far as I understand it. And this one is called Apache Ambush. It's Trailsman number 322 by John Sharp. Although I'm pretty sure that's a pen name for a content farm. I'm not 100% on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And this one reads, runaway train, Fargo is in no mood to talk when a wealthy freight baron tries to hire him to guide a valuable delivery through hostile Apache country. Then he meets the Fraser sisters, three wild, wanton, and whip-smart women who can drive a wagon train better than anyone in the territory. But making it through is going to take more than mule muscle. It's going to take the kick of the Trailsman colt, right? So, I bought this a while back, and I really bought it because I really liked the aesthetic of the cover. I think that these are really nice. I really like this woman in this like locket, frame thing. I like that there's, the wagon and kind of like the slice of life aspects that we're going to see throughout this. And then also a lot of action, right? In this situation here that clearly depicts kind of something you would expect from a Western novel, right? So, overall, I think this is a good book. It's going to be nice and short, 160 something pages. And this is the second main novel that I want to read for June on the Range, right? So in terms of manga, well, there really isn't too much manga that's available in English that deals with the Western genre, right? However, there are some in Spanish that do, right? And luckily, I'm going down to Mexico at the end of the month, right? So if all goes well, and maybe I can actually order them ahead of time so that they are there when I get there, I should be able to collect all 5 volumes of Greenblood. I currently have the first volume. However, it's the Spanish edition from Spain. So it's slightly different from what I really want to read. However, Mexico recently started releasing a lot of Masumi Kakisaki works, right? And so one of the ones that they released is Greenblood, and they finished releasing it, a few months ago, and so it's really ready for me to just buy it all, right? So I'm gonna try my best to make sure that to make time to go buy that if I don't have a chance to pre-order it or order it ahead of time, so that I can read that for June on the Range. I mentioned this in my June on the Range planning video. So if you want more information about it, go ahead and watch that if you're interested. Otherwise, I have another pair of choices here. So there's this light novel, which is a Japanese pulp novel called Sabuki Bisco, or Sabuki Bisco. And this one is a post-apocalyptic story, right? It's not really a Western, but it follows a ranger of some sort, a ranger type character, who alongside this doctor character go out into these desert wastelands in order to try to find something, right? So this kind of has the same idea as a Western, right? A lone ranger type character, a partner, and a hunt for something valuable, right? So And then the setting is also quite similar to, vast, desolate, arid region. And I think that it will work quite nicely. However, as you guys can see, this really isn't a gunslinging place. This is more of a, we'll use what we can get kind of thing, right? But that kind of adds to it, right? If he's using a bow and arrow, that's kind of more of a Native American type thing. So there is still some sort of parallelism that can work pretty nicely, right? And the cool thing about these pulp novels, these Japanese light novels, is that they sometimes, quite usually actually, involve illustrations, right? And here we have the ranger character and the doctor character doing an action pose right there, which is cool. And these are relatively short and quite easy to read. This one is about 220 pages or so. And there's not too much text per page. I mean, this is more or less like a normal novel in terms of like, how much text you get, but it reads quite quickly because it's done really simply. The way that it's written for Japanese people is so that it's simple for everyone to read, right? So that's good. I was trying to see if there was another cool set piece here that I could show you. I guess some of the color pages in the front, they don't really make it seem like it's a Western story though, so. There's a wanted poster. That's good enough, right? This is what the two main characters look like. Here's a few other characters. That looks like a prospector dude, which is kind of funny. I think back there's a gangster type guy, maybe someone from the city. Stuff like that, right? And if you read Flint, the Louis L'Amour book, the city into the wasteland is another kind of element that is, noticeable in Westerns, right? So I think that is going to work as well as it could be in terms of a novel, right? A Japanese novel that could function in this month, right? So that's that. And otherwise, I think that this is probably the best choice here. Golden Kamui, which I explained again in my other video. So Golden Kamui is a frontier story. It follows a Japanese soldier that has been decommissioned, or whatever the word is for no longer in service, and he has decided to go to the Japanese frontier. In this case, it's Hokkaido, which is up north, where tribes of natives that have issues with the Japanese exist and live. And he's going there to find gold, right? So again, this is quite similar to a Western story. So I think this is probably my best bet at making or reading something that is Japanese that also has that kind of heart of the Western in it, right? So that's probably going to be the best thing that I can read this month for this event that deals with manga. And I'm going to read the first 30-something chapters, which are the first 5 story arcs, right? So yeah, then in terms of other stuff, I want to read the web serial The Gods Are Bastards. And this is, I want to read the first 22 chapters, which are the first volume of the story. And this is a story that is primarily inspired by Westerns, right? So this fantasy world has moved beyond the medieval stasis, which is the medieval stasis refers to this idea that fantasy worlds remain in the medieval time, regardless of whether they need to or not. And this world has managed to overcome that somehow and moved on, right? And so now they have this industrial revolution style setting. And this is more or less when the Western frontier was kind of being explored, right? Since that's, when trains and stuff became relevant. There is this coming fantastical calamity that there are no heroes for, right? And so we follow these characters as they kind of go through this and kind of have to go through these, interesting arid lands and do these adventures and stuff that, according to the author, are all inspired by Westerns and Victorian romances and H. Rider Haggard and these types of classic pulp adventure type novels. And I think that that will work quite well for this month, right? So if it doesn't, it's fine. It's not that big a deal, but I really do hope that it matches the style of the Western well enough that I can, make sure that it counts for the June on the Range event. So we'll see. In terms of comic books, mangas technically are also comic books, but I mean like American or European. I don't own any, but there are a few options. And hopefully I'll buy one of these during the month, right? So that I can read them. I'm mostly leaning towards The White Indian, which is a Frank Frazetta book. It's a comic book. And as far as I understand it, it's about a Native American or someone that acts and thinks like a Native American, but actually is of, American or European descent, right? So that'll be cool. If I can't get that, I'll probably end up buying a Lucky Luke volume and reading that, but we shall see. Now, I don't necessarily only want to read Westerns. I do want to read a few other things. And in that sense, I do want to do some Tarzan stuff. So I don't want to do just arid, desert stuff. I want to do a little bit of jungle adventure as well. So I'm going to try to finally get back to reading The Son of Tarzan, book number 4 in the Tarzan series, which I left halfway, like a year ago, which is kind of crazy, actually. I forgot that it's been so long since I read this. And so hopefully I'll get back to it. I'll be able to finish it. I think I might just have to reread this from the beginning. I kind of still pretty clearly remember what happens. Tarzan has a son. His son is about 10 years old or 12 years old or something. He ends up going to a zoo or something, and he meets this ape who used to be friends with Tarzan from the previous book. And so this ape and the boy become friends, and then the ape is owned by one of Tarzan's old enemies. When he sees the boy, who happens to be Lord Greystoke's son, which he knows is Tarzan, he decides to send them both off to Africa. And so the ape is quite happy that he is now back in the jungle, but Tarzan's son is unsure about what to do, and he becomes a wild man like his father before him, but rather in a much more sinister or kind of sad way, right? Because Tarzan didn't know anything but the jungle until he met Jane, right? So Korak, however, or Tarzan's son, Korak the Killer, became a wild man because he had no other option, because he didn't have the necessary stuff at his disposal to get humans to help him, and so he had to turn to being a savage ape, right? And so he's quite different from Tarzan in quite a few ways, and I think I basically do remember everything, right? He meets a young girl called Miriam, and then they become friends and they live together. And so Korak is Tarzan, but with his own wild version of Jane, which is cool. And the last thing I remember is that there's this issue with Miriam's father that's coming up, and that there's this coming problem there, and also the burgeoning youth of these characters is making them kind of realize that they have attachment to each other that goes beyond just being friends or living mates, right? So I'm curious to see how that develops from there. Following along with Tarzan, the book, I also want to read some Tarzan comic books, and this is Tarzan: The New Adventures. This is a comic book strip. I think this is the only edition published, even though this should have had way more issues, but it is what it is. You can read this online on Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated, their website, but you have to have a subscription of some sort, or you can just buy this version. And I don't know why they didn't finish printing them. I mean, I guess it's probably just because there's just too many strips. But this is a collection of, I don't know how many strips actually. Let me see. It should tell us how many strips there are here. It says Volume 1 by Roy Thomas and Thomas Grinberg and Benito Gallego, who Benito Gallego, you might notice, is the same guy that did the recent Dynamite comic by in terms of artwork. And I quite like his style, but I think that Grinberg is probably a bit better in terms of what he's doing, right? So, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't say how many of these are put up here, but I mean, if it starts at page 7 and it ends at page 105, that means there's so there's 98 pages, so there's 98 strips, which is quite cool. There's quite a lot, but I'm curious to see how I'm gonna feel about this. I got this last year for my birthday. I think I got my sister to get me this, and I have not had a chance to check it out. So I really do want to do so soon. And I think that this will be a good book to take with me to Mexico since I want to avoid carrying that many books. So I'll probably just end up carrying this one alongside 2 others. And that'll be quite easy, and this can just fit in my backpack really simply because it's so thin and so long, right? So yeah, I'll probably end up taking this in Hondo and this next book that I'm talking about here, which is Soul Leveling number 8. This is the last book in the series. And I'm very excited to see what happens. I could have read this when I bought it, you know, I think back in December maybe, or maybe even earlier than that. I can't remember when it came out, but I just wanted to wait because I wasn't really ready for the series to end yet. And so I think now that I'm, you know, kind of removed from the series quite a bit, and I've managed to find other series in the same kind of vein, or in the same kind of general, you know, style or idea, stories that appeal even more to me than Soul Leveling did. I think I'm ready to finish this story, right? And I think that this is going to be one that really sticks with me. It's one that I'm going to really like for a long time coming, because I really enjoy every single one of these volumes that I get. I really love how the story is written. I like what the story is about. I do feel that there's a big plot twist, and I really do like the plot twist, but I feel like there could have been more to the story. There could have been more elements to the story beyond just like the basic, I am a badass that is going to continuously level up and that's going to make me super strong. But at the same time, compared to other series in the same kind of genre, this has quite a bit of stuff that, you know, most might not, you know, bother with, right? However, this is a Korean novel, and at this point, the lit RPG genre has become quite powerful in the indie sphere here in the Americas, right? So you might be able to find stories that are better than Soul Leveling, even though Soul Leveling might be the greatest example of the lit RPG or game lit type story, you know, since the kind of genre became relevant to anyone outside of Russia or Japan, you know, because it's Korean. I feel like you'll probably end up getting much better stories than this one from indie publishers here in the States, right? So I don't necessarily think that you shouldn't get this story. I think you should, because I think that there's a lot of value to it. But with the saturation of the genre at this point, I feel like there's probably going to be many people that don't like this series, right? And I hope that that's not the case, but I think it's true. And that they're going to constantly compare it to the Western ones, right? So I don't know, but I love this series. I'm really happy with it, and I hopefully will finish reading this, love it, and make a full review of the whole series where I just kind of talk about my feelings about it, right? So yeah, somehow this ended up being a much more verbose TBR video than the ones I've been wanting to do in the last year or so. And I think that that's fine. I think I'm feeling a bit introspective right now, so that's kind of why I'm talking more, but that's my TBR for the coming month. Hopefully you guys found something interesting here. Maybe you'll join me on June on the Range. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll join me reading Tarzan. Maybe you won't. I don't know. But hopefully you found something interesting in these books that I mentioned. You found something that drew your attention, and maybe also you found something that you weren't expecting to find, right? So hopefully this was interesting to watch. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys in the next video.